Have you ever felt a phantom fear, a cold dread that creeps into the quiet moments, a primal scream in your soul telling you to run, even when you are perfectly safe in your own bed? It's that sudden, chilling sensation that you are being watched, a feeling that makes the hair on your arms stand up and your heart hammer against your ribs. You open your eyes, you turn on the light, and there is nothing there. The room is empty, the silence is absolute, yet the terror remains, a ghostly echo in your nervous system. This is not a figment of your imagination. It is the language of your soul, a sacred archive that holds every memory, every wound, even the ones your conscious mind has fought desperately to bury. It is a signal from the deepest part of you, a buried memory trying to surface. If this feeling resonates with the depths of your being, know that you have found a sacred space. Let us know in the comments by writing "I am not alone," and join this community of souls by liking and subscribing, because the journey we are about to embark on is one that many walk, but few dare to speak of. This profound, inexplicable reaction doesn't materialize from nowhere. It is not a mere coincidence or a trick of a tired mind. It is a signal flare from a deep, unhealed sexual wound. Now, close your eyes and breathe. When I say that phrase, I am not merely speaking of what you might immediately imagine: the overt, the violent, the scenes worthy of a horror movie. While those are devastating realities, the sexual wound is often far more insidious, a phantom that haunts in subtler ways. It can be a comment spoken at the wrong moment, a casual remark that objectified you and made you feel like a thing instead of a soul. It could have been a hand that lingered just a fraction of a second too long, crossing an invisible boundary and leaving an energetic stain of violation. It might have been a gaze that pierced through your skin, not with admiration, but with a predatory hunger that left you feeling frozen, exposed, and deeply unsafe in your own body. These moments, often dismissed by others and even by yourself as not a big deal, are the small, invisible cuts that, when added together, begin to sever your connection to your own sacred essence. Or perhaps it wasn't a single moment, but a lifetime of them. Years of whispered phrases, spoken with the weight of authority you were taught never to question. Words from parents, teachers, or religious figures that planted seeds of shame deep within your being. Don't touch yourself there. That's not right. Be quiet, and don't say anything. These commands, meant to control, created a prison around your natural, divine sexual energy. They taught you that your desires were dirty, that your pleasure was sinful, and that your body was a source of temptation and danger rather than a temple of divine expression. Each of these phrases was a small, invisible cut, a tiny fissure in your soul. Over time, these cuts accumulated, creating a deep, sprawling wound that began to dictate the way you trust, the way you love, and the way you desire. This wound destroyed your ability to connect with others from a place of wholeness, replacing innocent curiosity with a guarded fear and spontaneous joy with a calculated caution. It became the silent architect of your relationships, building walls where bridges should have been. The sexual wound operates like a thief in the night. It enters the sacred home of your soul while you are sleeping, often during the innocence of childhood or the vulnerability of youth, and it steals something you didn't even know you possessed: the pure, unadulterated innocence of desire. It takes the inherent purity of your body, the truth that you are a safe and sacred place, and replaces it with a lingering sense of unease. And the cruelest part of this theft is that for many years, you don't even realize the thief was there. You go about your life, building relationships, seeking connection, and you only discover the theft when you try to truly give yourself to someone, to open the innermost doors of your heart and body. It is in that moment of profound vulnerability that you find something inside you resists, a part of you that freezes, that shuts down, that doesn't want to open the door. It's a silent, screaming no that echoes from the past, a protective mechanism that has become a prison. In that space, love becomes confused with submission, and desire becomes tangled with a deep, paralyzing fear. Without ever realizing it, you yourself have become a battlefield, a constant, silent war between your soul's deep yearning for connection and the wounded part's desperate need for safety. You don't notice this internal war on calm days, when the world is at a safe distance, but you feel it with an undeniable intensity when someone tries to get too close. You notice it when a touch that should be pleasurable, that is offered with love and tenderness, instead feels like a threat, triggering a cascade of alarms throughout your nervous system. You notice it when you find yourself faking not pleasure, but safety, pretending you're fine, pretending you're open, when in reality, every cell in your body is frozen in a state of high alert. You become an actor in the most intimate theater of your own life, performing a role of connection while your true self is dissociated, watching from a distance. And here is where the experience becomes profoundly unsettling. This wound, this phantom from your past, begins to camouflage itself. It dresses itself up in the socially acceptable costumes of caution and prudence. You tell yourself, "I'm just not one of those people who let themselves go easily," or "I'm just not that interested in sex." You may even adopt a spiritual identity that bypasses the body, believing that true enlightenment means transcending physical desire altogether. But behind that mask, behind that carefully constructed story, lies a wound that has decided it is far safer to extinguish the fire of your own life force than to risk getting burned again. And in the meantime, your entire life begins to adjust to that emotional amputation. You believe you are choosing your path freely, but in reality, you are running away from the very essence of who you are. The body remembers what the mind refuses to see, and every time you ignore its whispers, every time you override its signals, you inadvertently give the wound more power over your life. Understand this. True healing is not about forgiving quickly or forgetting as if nothing ever happened. That is a form of spiritual bypassing that only deepens the wound. True healing is a brutal, uncomfortable, and sacred process. It is a journey into the shadows of your own soul, a descent into the underworld of your own pain. It is a process in which you will have to consciously and courageously face everything you've avoided for your whole life. You will have to sit with the ghosts of the past, not to be haunted by them, but to finally listen to what they have to say. You'll have to reconcile with the profound truth that your body is not your enemy. It has been your loyal guardian, holding on to the memory of the trauma to keep you safe. Your desire is not dangerous. It is a divine, creative energy, a sacred life force that was unjustly shamed. You must learn that the voice inside you, the one that has been screaming, "Be careful," isn't always right. It is the voice of your wound, not the voice of your higher self. And yes, as part of this sacred journey, you will have to face the hardest part, forgiveness. But hear me clearly, this is not forgiveness for them. It is not about absolving the one who hurt you or letting them off the hook. That is their journey, their karma. The forgiveness required is for yourself. You must forgive yourself for not knowing better, for not being able to protect yourself, for the ways you may have unconsciously perpetuated your own pain. You must free yourself from the chains of resentment, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. As long as resentment occupies your energy, the wound will remain alive, feeding off your life force, keeping you tethered to the past. This healing is not about becoming the person you were before the wound. That person is gone. This is about being reborn with a conscious, sacred sexual energy. It's about letting desire be yours again, pure, unchained, and holy. Because only when you reclaim it, only when you learn to embrace it without fear, does the wound finally stop ruling you from the shadows. And on that day, believe me, your life doesn't just change, it expands in ways you cannot yet imagine, because you will come to understand that desire is not just sex, it is your vital impulse. It is your creativity. It is your authentic love for life itself. It is the freedom to fully inhabit your body, your emotions, your entire being. And this is where it gets even more unsettling, Because the sexual wound doesn't live in isolation. It is not a sealed, compartmentalized trauma that you can neatly tuck away. It seeps into every corner of your life, even into the areas you swear have nothing to do with it. It creeps into the way you negotiate your salary at work, into how you set boundaries with your family, into the very tone of voice you use when you say no, or when you say yes, but really mean something else. It starts as a silent echo, shaping your relationships from the inside out, but it eventually ends up molding your entire identity. Without you even noticing, your self-esteem becomes a reflection of what others decided you were worth. You grow up believing you're worth what you give, not who you are. And the deepest problem is this. If you don't see this pattern, you start living as if you need permission to exist. You find yourself unconsciously asking for validation, to desire, to feel, to simply be. And here comes the final blow. Often, you are not even looking for love in your relationships. You are looking for repetition. The unconscious mind is a cruel lover, addicted to the familiar, even when the familiar is toxic. So, without knowing it, you gravitate toward people who, with different faces and different words, recreate the same script that wounded you in the first place. You do this not because you want to suffer, but because your mind tragically believes that reliving the trauma is the only way to finally master it, to close the loop. But it doesn't close it. It perpetuates it. It feeds the wound, turning it into a vicious cycle that consumes you from the inside, all while you disguise it as fate or simply bad luck. Then, something even worse comes. Total disconnection. That hollow feeling of living life halfway, of being present but absent, as if the world is passing through you without ever truly touching you. Psychologists call this dissociation, but you feel it like you're watching your own life through a closed, soundproof window. There is no real contact, not with others, and most tragically, not with yourself. And that is the real tragedy of this wound. Sexual trauma doesn't just steal your pleasure, it robs you of your very ability to inhabit yourself. Without realizing it, you stop trusting your own intuition. You start questioning every impulse, every heartbeat, every gut feeling, as if they have all been contaminated by the original betrayal. And in that constant, exhausting doubt, you lose your sense of direction. You no longer know if you are moving forward or backward, you just know that you are profoundly tired. But here is the sacred truth that no one ever tells you. Even in this state of exhaustion and disconnection, the sexual wound can become a door. Yes, a divine doorway. Because by finally turning to face it, by looking at it without blinking, you don't just reclaim your sexuality. You recover vast parts of yourself you didn't even know you had lost. You reclaim the voice you silenced the first time you were told, "Don't say anything." You reclaim the strength you gave away in exchange for a false sense of protection. And above all, you reclaim the divine ability to feel without fear. But to get there, you will have to dismantle a lie. The lie that has been ruling your life for years. The idea that your body is dangerous, that your desire is an enemy, and that your pleasure is a debt to be paid. You will have to learn, moment by moment, to distinguish between real danger and the learned fear that has become your shadow. You will have to realize that the thirst you feel isn't just physical. It is a hunger for your own presence, a deep yearning to come home to yourself. Because trauma is not just a memory that hurts, it is an identity thief. And when you finally face it, you don't just close a wound, you reclaim your divine right to exist, whole and complete. And that moment, that sacred moment of reclamation, is the true rebirth. Now that we have made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking and, with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. And here's the secret few want to admit. There is no final, healed version of you. There is always a next level, a new depth in which you can inhabit yourself more fully. Every time you choose to protect your energy, every time you approach someone from freedom and not from the wound, every time you say an authentic yes or a firm no, you are rewriting your story. That, for many, is the real miracle. The rest will keep believing that healing is about forgetting, but you already know that true healing is about remembering without pain, loving without burning, and desiring without binding. So before you go, I want you to take one more thing with you. What you now feel as emptiness can, tomorrow, become the sacred space where everything you ever wanted to be can finally bloom. It is up to you whether you fill it with the old fear or with your newfound power. And now, I am going to ask you something. If this journey we have taken together has touched something deep inside you, subscribe. Not to inflate a number, but so you won't miss the next time we break through the layers of the soul together. And please, leave in the comments a phrase that only you can understand, a phrase that reminds you that your story changed right here, in this moment. It doesn't matter if others don't get it. What matters is that you do, because that will be your mark, your silent witness that you decided, today, to take back what was always yours. And now, I'm going to do something you're not expecting. I'm saying goodbye without saying goodbye. I'll leave you here, in this moment, with the door wide open. Cross it or don't, but remember, from the moment you heard these words, you can no longer pretend you don't know where the exit is.